Hey guys, gonna be doing a review on a Polarstar F1 HPA engine. So I met two guys, actually there was a third, at Assault Airsoft Indoor. They were both, two of them were twins, and then I think they brought one friend. And Austin, that's his name, he owns this. They're twins, they literally look the exact same, and I can't tell the difference between them. And actually, Austin's brother, his twin brother, has a Inferno M4, and Austin was borrowing his brother's Inferno M4. He was using it, and so when I was talking to him, I said, I'm fixing your brother's gun, but it was actually his gun. He was just using his brother's gun. So I don't know how I'm going to correlate between whose is whose, and if they switch each other's guns, I won't know who's who. So, yeah, but this is a beautiful gun. Beautiful, beautiful gun. This is, the F1 engine inside of a Crytek Mark II. So I'm just going to go over the externals, and then I'm going to shoot it and get into the nitty-gritty of the F1 engine. So we have a Airsoft Megasaur suppressor. This is hollow. There's no foam in it. He does have a Magpul Battle Comp flash hider that he's going to use on this, at least for indoors. I'd probably just use that on here even if you're playing outdoors. It's a lot shorter, and this really does nothing unless you foam fill it, because the barrel stops here. We have the Keymod rail, Crytek Keymod rail, and then a Fortis angled grip here, and it's metal. It's some sort of aluminum, probably CNC, and it feels fantastic. We have the Crytek Mark II body with some interesting ambi mag catch. So I don't know what brand this is, where he got it, but that is really cool. On top, he has a replica magnifier. Now, it's angled down. It wasn't like this before. I don't know if one of the screws came undone a little bit, but this, in my opinion, I wouldn't use this anyways, because when you do turn on the red dot, the dot is way up in the corner. Like, it doesn't line up properly. So, that's just me. You could probably line it up, but I would just take this off, especially for indoors. This could come off. Your gun will be probably a pound lighter because this thing is heavy. But it is flipped aside. He is a lefty, so for a righty, it's kind of in the way. This is a Holosun T1. This is awesome. This is actually made for real guns. It says primary arms over here, so I don't know what that's all about. But Holosun's the brand, I believe. The red dot might be called Holosun, and primary arms might make it. I don't know. I'm not an expert with that. But it's a freaking amazing red dot. It's like 6 different color adjust, or not color, brightness adjustment. I think it's just red. Yeah, it looks like it's just red, which is fine with me. But there's 12 different settings for brightness. 11. So that's that. Standard crane stock, or yeah, Crytek crane stock. Magpul pistol grip. We have a amped inline grip, or integrated grip line is what they call it, and then a retro arm straight trigger. And I did shorten the trigger pull. We have the 7.4 LiPo in here, the JST. I'm going to go ahead and show you the FCU. Now, this is basically Polarstar's revamp of the jack. The jack they released just for a short time so that people could have an engine that they can drop in like an SMP. You know, not having a fusion engine. And then they perfected the F1, and now that's what they're doing. They're making. So JST LiPo. It uses a Polarstar trigger board, which is awesome. It uses more battery power because it is like LED. It's display screen, but they're so much easier to adjust. Let me check the rate of fire. Forget what rate of fire I have it set for. 30. I have it set for 30, and 30 it's fantastic. Feeds great. Also on this you have to have it set for the F1 setting instead of the FE. The FE is fusion engine, so you have to make sure you have the proper setting. The wire harness is covered in this mesh stuff which protects it, which is awesome. What else? The trigger board I'm not too big of a fan of. It's more like an SMP. It feels like you're shooting an SMP, but it's not super duper responsive. Like, you can't see it doesn't shoot very fast. Just like my SMP, my V12 is much, much quicker. My V12 is much more like a Polar Star, like a fusion engine. But these drop-ins aren't as good, which isn't always a bad thing. You know, you can still shoot quick with your shooting like this, but it is cool to shoot like that. It's just satisfying. But you can still shoot it fast with your trigger finger. So, fast enough. On the hop-up system, there's a Pro 1 hop-up, stock barrel, and a Prometheus bucking, purple bucking with flat hop nub. It shoots really good with .3s. But I'm shooting 2.5 for the sake of .3s are expensive, and I don't have a whole lot, and I use those for some of my gas blowbacks. Just my gas blowback rifle, actually. Just the one. But yeah, with .3s with the flat hop, it shoots really nice. I'd say max range 200 feet with the 2.5 or 3s. With the 2s, the BBs just go off. They just curve a lot. And the nozzle alignment's really good, but in my experience with HPA guns, they just need heavier BBs, which is weird, but that's just how it is. Okay, so as far as tank, I'm using a Ninja tank, Ninja regulator, and 80 PSI. So at 80 PSI, it shoots about 330 with a 3. So pretty hard. I told him to use 75 to 80 PSI indoors and use 3s, and then outdoors use 3s or 3.2s and use 90 to 100 PSI. So equivalent, you know, indoors would be about 380 with the 2, and then outdoors would be about 400 with the 2, but using .3s. But .3s are going to hurt with this thing, but you can't really take it past, he might be, I think he's using a nice regulator like mine, so he might be able to take it down to 70 and still be consistent, whereas like some regulators just cannot, they're not very good at low PSI, like really low, like 70, but his might. Mine kind of does it, I'm just having it at 80, but for outdoors, he should probably run 90, but for indoors, probably 80. So it's actually pretty quiet when there's no foam in here. It's obviously overhopping with 2.5s, but a lot of the BBs go way to the side. Full auto. I'm going to wind this quite a bit. I'm using Evike Matrix .25s. Feeding is fantastic. Pretty much 100%. It's at 30. I told him 30 is probably the highest you want, because if you go above that, you're just dumping air and dumping ammo. So trigger response, I mean, insane. Rate of fire adjustable. Again, FPS adjustable. Stock inner barrel, if I didn't say. You got to be careful with HPA guns, because you can really hurt people with high joules. With heavy BBs. I run 2.5s in my SMP, and then 2s in my V12. So I should probably run 3s in my SMP, though. So, I really do recommend the engine. Again, this is basically the update to the jack, so I don't think they're making the jack anymore. So if you want a jack, the F1's pretty much the same thing. So performance, really good. It's actually kind of broken in a little bit since I've been shooting it. And air efficiency is insane. I've shot one high cap through it already, and I went through only 500 PSI. One high cap, 500 PSI. So 300 rounds for 500 PSI, and it holds 3,000. Well, it holds 48 cubic inch, but I'm going by the regulator marker of how low it gets, how much air it's using there. Which is better than my SMP, and much better than my V12. Twice as efficient as my V12. As far as with my SMP is not bad, but it's just not as good as this. It's a little bit more efficient. So there you are. If you have any questions, just comment below. Again, I do recommend the V1 or the F1 engine. Over the SMP, I mean, the trigger board feels identical when you fire it at the actual mechanics, but the trigger board on the Polar Stars are much better in my opinion. You can adjust them, you can fine-tune them. Whereas the dwell and the rate of fire you adjust on the Wolverine SMP with the screw. It's just a bad design, and the screw is plastic too. And FCUs are expensive too. They're like 60 or 70 new. So there's the trigger board. Out of ammo. So if you have any questions, just comment below. But I really do recommend this engine, and I had a lot of fun shooting it. I shot, again, that's the second high cap, and I went through 1,000 PSI. Not even 1,000 yet. So very, very efficient. Whereas if I put 2 high caps through my V12, I'd be half what this is at. So very efficient. So if you have any questions, comment below. Thank you guys for watching.